Send a powerful message to those people who live in the past and tell them no more business as usual and no more repeat performances because we're going to make America great again.
Hey everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Two Noobs Talking. Actually, you know what, Johnny, now that I think about it, let's make it Three Noobs Talking one more time, shall we? Why not, right?
We like Steve, so.
With me,
Can't get enough of me.
Absolutely. With me, of course, is my regular co-host, brave enough to venture down the rabbit hole. Thank you, Lord Almighty. Mr. John Tracy. John, how you doing, man? What's going on tonight, man?
What's going on, Matt? How are you, Steve?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. And of course, joining us is our regular third noob, now a seemingly regular contributor to our podcast, all-around good guy, even though he's wearing a really funny hat right now. If you ever do meet him, you will be blessed to meet this guy, Mr. Steve Murray. Steve, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you? You know, the irony is here I am, and the Flyers have made a total overhaul of their roster, and we're not here to talk about that.
Exactly, yeah. That might be another future podcast a couple down the road. We'll have to see there. I'm, of course, Matt Craig. I'm back from a great day trip in the Poconos of Pennsylvania. Gents, if you ever have the chance to go up north, maybe take a car ride, a couple hours, go up there. Wonderful hills of Pennsylvania. It's amazing. Of course, happy you are with us as well. Gents, it's episode 43 of Two Noobs Talking.
Yeah.
So let's rattle off some numbers. Let's see. Who do you think wore that number in Philadelphia?
I'm letting John go first.
Oh, Darren Sproles? I'll go with the easy one.
Yeah, Darren. Absolutely.
I'll go with the easy one.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm going Andy Delmore.
Oh, my gosh.
We laughed about that one.
I
Game
love
3
that.
hat trick.
The hat trick, yeah, against the Pittsburgh Penguins in that
That's
semifinal
right.
series. Yeah, made it all the way.
Started the comeback.
Yeah, exactly.
Good player.
And I can remember, of course, in the Phillies, Randy Wolf, if you ever
There you
recall
go. The
that
Wolfpack.
from the Phillies. The Wolf Pack, that was a major thing. And he was a pretty good pitcher for the Phillies all those years ago.
I think so. Absolutely.
Not bad.
Went on to, what did he go? On to the Brewers?
A
To have
host of teams, yeah. Brewers
couple
and
other good
Texas
years.
and all kinds of teams,
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, he's a good
ridiculous.
Big fan of Randy Wolf.
Yeah.
How about some goalie love, Marty Biron?
There you go.
Good guy.
Gotta give Marty love.
You know, he was one of those guys, you think about that, you know, coming off the lockout, you know, they didn't really they couldn't, I don't think the Flyers, you know, there was that hard cap, of course. And, of course, they're spending money all over the place on on goalies. Everything from Van Beesbrook to Ash to Czechmanek to whatever. And in comes Marty Biron, who was a very underrated goaltender. I think he played for Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah.
And was really good. Got the 2008-9. They made a couple runs. They started to win a few games, and they made the playoffs with him. So yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah, amazing.
And pretty much I'm done there. I don't have anything else.
I don't think there's anything
I
else.
can't think of anybody else.
43 is a weird number.
Yeah.
It is.
So yeah.
It's total, I bet you there's one safety that every Eagles fan loved that we're not thinking of. I bet that's gonna happen. Like,
We'll have to look that up later.
what
man.
about Steve Schlosky? He was like the greatest hitter, and it's like we never saw it coming. Like,
I met him. He's a total a-hole.
Exactly. Be like the Byers thing. We couldn't figure it out until just later.
but that's one dude. That's one dude that isn't an a-hole.
Exactly. But speaking of, someone had a homework assignment, right? Steve?
That's right.
Did Byers win the Super Bowl?
Keith Byers did not win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
About that.
He made a Super Bowl
Okay.
with the New England Patriots the year they lost to Brett Favre and the Packers,
That's what I thought.
which I believe was Super Bowl 31.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
That was I believe his like second to last year, or was very tail end.
yeah.
Did he
He
wear?
made a Super Bowl, did not win.
Hmm.
He
Unfortunately,
was wearing the same number, right?
that I don't know.
That's what I'm
He
interested.
might have. I
think
think he
so.
got
'Cause as
41
soon as
throughout
you
his
said
career.
Patriots, I'm picturing a Byers Patriot.
He probably did.
Yeah, I
And,
think so.
He caught a touchdown in that Super Bowl.
Did he really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
He had like 4 or 5 catches for like 50 yards and a touchdown.
Okay.
So he actually played pretty well.
Serviceable for a good running back out of him for sure. So, gents, as always, we've got a lot in the docket. We're ranging, of course, everything from the COVID vaccine hesitancy, and of course, a patent that we're going to look at that Steve has created a wonderful PowerPoint on. We got a story on the myth of expired food, which I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys about. Our happy segment is going to be talking about the books we love to read. We're also going to do an old man rant, old man yelling at cloud on ESPN, and what not only yelling at them, but what we would do to try and improve the sports network. But first, before we get into this, let's talk about an interesting theory that was recently offered about our universe, gents, and that is from lifescience.com. Our universe might be a giant three-dimensional donut. Really? Donut. Imagine a universe where you could point a spaceship in one direction and eventually return to where you started. If our universe was a finite donut, then such movements would be possible, and physicists could potentially measure its size. Quote, we could say, now we know the size of the universe. Astrophysicist Thomas Buchert of the University of Lyon Astrophysical Research Center in France told Live Science in an email. Gents, this is a fascinating, and of course on screen for our audio listeners, you won't have the benefit of this, but it does look, in fact, like a donut, or as Steve rightly pointed out in pre-production, it looks like a wheel from the movie Tron from from Disney.
My light cycle no longer can be operated.
Exactly. But gents, this is a fascinating theory. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I'd be curious. You know, we all love space and everything, but what are your thoughts on this? As there's a pregnant pause in the middle of this. Yeah. Anybody?
For
Yeah.
me,
I was going to let John go first.
yeah, for me, definitely. It's not out of the realm, but we don't know anything. So I'm really glad that these theories used to come around in the early 90s in mainstream. And they went away for a really long time. I kind of like to see that they're popping up again because theories, not space, but just in general for me, theories and science is the greatest thing that we can do because that's how you figure out what's going on is a bunch of opinions. I want to know everybody's opinion. I want the guy that says it looks like the coffee cup when we get the coffee cup and the donut guy together and we will figure it out. That's all I really kind of wanted to add to that. It's just the theories make me happy because we're learning.
No doubt about it. I think for me, it certainly does seem to make a legitimate sense because everything from the way the planets rotate and the way the galaxy is rotating, it would seem to me that everything is on a rotational, basis here. And could it be possible that the universe is operating in a gigantic, spinning wheel or donut? Who knows? I think it's a great theory to posit. Steve, your thoughts on that?
I can't say that I've heard a donut shape before, but it does make sense because everything we see is flat. But if you have like a piece of PVC piping, it looks curved to us because we're huge. But if you're like a tiny little ant walking on that PVC pipe, it's going to look
it's definitely not.
It's going to look pretty flat to you.
Oh yeah.
So the theory has some sense to it. I think the article said that the guess is maybe the thickness of the donut is like 3 to 4 times the visible part of the universe. So unfortunately, it's not something we're likely to have proven in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But it's definitely an interesting shape, interesting theory. I've heard other shapes before. There's like saddle kind of shapes. There's discs, spheres, all that kind of stuff.
Do you think it's linear? Do you think it just continues to keep going? Meaning that it's like a straight line type of thing.
I've read a couple theories about that. I personally, when you sent me the donut theory, I was like, well, it kind of makes sense when they're talking about how they're flying to Mars because they're doing everything in a big circle. We got to go here to project over here. I kind of get that. There's a bunch of other theories about black holes that change this theory, but I mean, this theory is just as good as everything else
Oh yeah.
that I've read.
Mhm.
It makes sense. Like I could totally, if I wasted obsessive compulsive disorder, wasted like a good month and a half, I totally could probably give you a synopsis that it makes sense.
Mm.
It
Well,
made sense in the article that I read.
Yeah.
Matt's theory on like rotation and stuff. You know, things in the universe tend to spheritize.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
know, it's
Come back.
planets, stars, everything all kind of turn into a ball.
Yep.
Galaxies they're not balls typically, but they're rather flat discs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so round is sort of a
It-
universe sort of tending shape.
It's kind of what they've been pushing.
Yeah.
Circle spinning. So
Mhm.
it's kind of it makes sense. I mean, totally.
Yeah, I think
it's-
it's just utterly fascinating the fact that they're coming up with
Yeah.
this kind of a theory, and I think you guys are right in terms of like other theories that have been posited of what the shape of the universe is like. And of course, we're never going to really fully know, but it is fascinating to see because I think about it like when I look up at the constellations specifically, and you see Orion's Belt is a great example here in the Northeast. We see it all the time, where you've got it is a straight line, but every one of those stars in Orion's Belt is just could be different millions of miles away.
Yes. Yes.
It just looks to us like they're right on top of one another. You know, essentially not right on top of one another, but in a line, straight line like that. But the depth perception could be just something where it's like, whoa, you know, that's kind of leans credence to the idea that it could be spherical or it could be a donut shape.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have had the luxury of seeing a big Texas sky.
Mm,
It kind of makes you feel
I bet. Yeah,
like
talk
what
about
we
that,
like
yeah.
it because it's so wide open with cities are so far apart. You spend a lot of time driving in Texas with a very open sky.
Mm-hmm.
If I never lived in other places and like grew up here, you selling me that theory, I don't think I would believe anything else.
Mm.
To be honest, because it's how it feels here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me think about like Montana specifically. Like if you're talking big sky country.
Oh, absolutely.
Stars
Idaho.
everywhere, and it's like that's got to be one really awe-inspiring, but two very scary. Also, too, if you think about it, it's like whoa.
Especially like the northern Midwest is beautiful to be out
Yeah,
at night and I bet you could sell that easy to people.
yeah,
Like it's a better theory for people that are actually not in city dwellings.
yeah. I would agree.
And that might be the disassociation between everything. Because if you can't see the sky, my kids actually made a really good point. We were sitting out on the deck the other night, and they made a really good point because they live in the city of Philadelphia. They were like, "This is just nice, not having to look at buildings."
Makes all the difference in the world, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. It makes a huge difference. It's a
Yeah.
good view.
less,
You know what I mean? But
less light pollution, essentially.
yeah,
And you
exactly.
see more
Absolutely.
of the stars and all that. Because I can remember like being out. My dad was, of course, adjutant general,
Yes.
state of Pennsylvania, and he had a home that was right out in the middle of the countryside of Pennsylvania, and you see more stars out there than you would even if you're just in the outskirts of Philadelphia. Let's just say a lot more stars. You know,
The
that
sun shines brighter
yeah,
and the stars shine brighter. It's kind of awesome.
yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Now you've mentioned different theories of the universe, and I've done a lot of reading on that subject.
A ton.
If you guys are ready to get weird,
Let's go.
all right. So Matt asked the question:
Mhm.
Is it just a straight line keeps going?
Mm.
Right. So that is one of the universe theories: is that the universe just goes on forever; it's infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, here's where, and that kind of makes logical sense because it's like for those who are like, well, the universe can't exist. What's outside the universe? If nothing is outside the universe, then the universe must go on forever.
Yes, and
So it makes-
anything can exist. No, it totally makes sense.
So it makes some sense, right?
If we
Now-
were all just to have that theory, I don't think anybody would be like, That's a bit like it makes total sense.
No,
Right.
It goes on forever. We're
Right. Now, here's where it gets weird. Okay, if the universe goes on forever and is infinite,
Mm.
there are only so many ways that matter can come together.
This is
Mhm.
true.
Okay,
Mhm.
so if the universe is infinite, there are probably also an infinite number of me's and an infinite number of Johns.
Yeah.
Yes.
And an infinite number of Matts.
But
And in an infinite universe, there are infinite worlds where Matt, Steve, and a John are right now doing a podcast.
Yeah.
yes, but your nose could be sideways. Mine could not exist, and Matt's could be on his forehead.
That's true. That could be true.
That's technically
Exactly.
when we talk about that. I've read a little bit on that with the everything's happening at the same time
Yeah.
kind of concept, and there are great comics out there that do great adaptations of that concept of like, and they do it with newscasters, and they always pick on the media, which is the best part
That's great. Love
of
it.
doing it. Is they pick on the media, and then you have like the United States media, and then backwards and backwards and backwards, you've got like a cow and a goat doing the news. And it's just like that's what you're kind of talking about with the comedy end of it. Like
That's great. Kind of
Right.
reminds me of that old Futurama.
I could totally be
where
a
they
monkey
reach the
right
edge
now
of the
in another
universe.
universe.
I was just going to say, Johnny, it kind of just reminds me of the old Futurama episode where they reach the end of the universe and they get out and they have the binoculars. They look over on the other side and it's them looking back. It's hilarious. Love it.
Great show.
Great show.
That's part of it.
Some,
Yeah.
of the
So-
some of the best stuff ever written.
Yeah.
Futurama. If you haven't checked
Those
it out,
guys get their science right too. They must
Oh, they
have
sure do. Yeah.
they must have, I don't know if it's Matt Groening or people on his staff. They must have had like actual
Yeah.
science people.
Funny
to
you
come
mention
up
that.
with them.
Funny you mention that, Steve. It's like I remember there was an old MythBusters episode, and Al Jean was on the show, and they were doing like Homer Simpson's myths, and or Simpsons myths, and he was like, "Yeah, we have like staff writers that
Yeah.
are into science and like love science and all that kind of stuff." So
you
they,
got to think about they first they have Fox money, then they have his money, and his best friend is pretty rich too.
Mhm.
That is a contributor.
Yep.
Wayne White. His wife was the first ever Simpsons writer ever.
Mm,
So they have a clique of people
yeah.
with a ton of money that could probably afford a couple scientists just coming down and giving them like, give me that deep synopsis. Cool.
Yeah.
Here. You know what I mean? I drove down for $40,000, wrote it up for you. Here you go. You can have it, or I just email it to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so here's your next theory. Now this in this theory, you have to imagine that something other than the universe exists. We're now getting into multiple universes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So there's this stuff.
I'm here, just so you know.
Right, yeah.
Right here.
There's this stuff that just exists.
You are here. It's me.
There's this stuff. And then what happened was the theory is our Big Bang opened a bubble in the stuff.
Oh,
Mhm.
interesting.
So
Okay.
we are just this gigantic bubble
Mm,
in this stuff floating around with other bubbles that
Mhm.
and it gets even weirder because they say in theory the physics could be different in each bubble.
oh,
Mhm.
interesting.
So like gravity is one way here,
Mhm.
gravity could be totally another way in another bubble. An electron weighs X amount here.
Yep.
An electron could be like the size of Earth in another bubble. you know?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
think of Swiss cheese, and each hole in the Swiss cheese is a different universe.
Uh-huh.
That's wild.
And just for comedy, okay, so in those two bubbles of Swiss cheese that we're gonna look in, one's Earth where we're all walking on the ground. The other is we're all floating and we're afraid of the ground because we don't want to fall. Because if gravity deceases us, we shoot up in the air. If gravity stops them, they hit the ground. They're actually in a worse predicament than us.
How about that?
I don't know. It gets hard to breathe once you get out in space.
Yes. I just think it's
FYI.
longer because I live down here.
True.
Yeah, there you go.
Very true.
Exactly. Just a fascinating discussion. That's great. Just
So the next theory that I'm gonna
Oh, you got one more. Okay.
Oh, I got three more.
Oh, you got three more. Okay.
He's got time. He's gonna. He
By the
knows.
way, if
Bring it.
anyone out there is interested in this kind of stuff,
Yes.
Brian Greene is a astrophysicist. He's a fantastic writer. He writes stuff that normal people can understand.
Mm.
It's good stuff.
Which is thankful because
Yeah.
I can't get that deep. I can't get that deep on a normal level.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Alright.
need someone to explain it to me.
Go for it.
Theory number 3.
Mm.
You have to use your mind a little bit. So, you know what a membrane is, right? So,
Yep.
picture this piece of paper.
Mm.
Okay, but this is 2 dimensions. I don't have enough dimensions to make this work for real. This is just okay. So we are on this. They call it a brain.
Mm.
Okay, now it's 2 dimensions, but we actually have 3.
Yep.
And it's floating in at least 1 extra dimension. So here, this is 2. You know, this way and this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's floating in something that also has a 3rd dimension here.
Mm.
And what they say is, okay, so our universe is this brain. And everything in that universe is attached to the brain and so can interact with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there may be other brains floating in the dimensions.
This is where
They could-
consciousness comes in for people. Just
Yeah.
so they're
Possibly.
understanding. Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly, because here's why. One of the theories says you could have brains piled right on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not connected to that brain, you have no interaction with it.
It's almost like if you go outside and you're looking at the tree, you won't see the sky. Is the concept.
That's the concept.
It's all focus and consciousness, and that when Steve's getting into the theory where you could actually say that there's 7 levels of consciousness or 10 levels of it goes on. Go far enough down the rabbit hole. I bet you there's 172.
Yeah.
Because they just add them after a while.
Yeah.
Well, so this theory says brains could be overlapping. There could be things going on around me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're not attached to my brain and I'm not attached to their brain, BRANE, not brain,
Yeah.
Yes.
brain, because they're detached,
Yes.
we can't interact with all. We can't see, we can't feel, we can't touch.
Yep.
So that's a weird one.
That's a wild theory. Yeah.
Oh, it gets weirder.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Oh, number 4.
So this is something I took in college. It's called quantum mechanics.
There we go.
Everyone's probably heard that term before.
No. Uh-huh.
Quantum mechanics is weird because it deals with really little things. So we're talking about like particles and stuff that make up particles. And it turns out at that level, things get really bizarre. You can't talk about absolute position or absolute speed of something. It's all probability. Okay, so it's like, I know that electron is within this cloud somewhere, but I can't tell you exactly where. I could tell you the highest probability location. Now, this has been extended in theory. So I think Matt has heard of the term the Schrodinger cat before.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
basically
know-
where you have like a cat inside of a box and you have a poison vial also inside of the box. And you don't know whether or not the cat has knocked over the poison vial so that it kills itself. So the idea is that the cat can both be alive and dead inside of the box. It explains what quantum physics is all
So you're
about.
dealing with probability. Like the probability is that he could do it, but the
Bingo.
probability there's also a probability.
Our ability that he can't do it. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the
Okay.
thing is, when you open the box, you have now made an observation. And by making that observation, you have caused one of those 2 possibilities to come into existence.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes total sense.
Now, here's where the universe theory gets weird. So there's a universe theory of the quantum multiverse where there is a universe that cat, okay, there's 2 ways it could go. There's one universe where it died and one universe where it lived.
Yeah.
So there is a universe for every branch of every decision that could have ever happened anytime.
Butterfly effect. Almost, essentially. Yeah.
Oh, it makes total sense. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So there's a universe where John did not just take a sip from that beer can.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep, I'll do it again. So there'll be twice that it didn't happen.
There you go. So now we've got like what, 4 multiverses?
Horrible
I'm
universe.
trying. There is, if I can reach over here for a minute for you guys, I'm a big fan of the Spider-Verse.
Oh, there you
Wow,
go.
look at that.
Ah, big Funko
You know, it's
Pop,
kind of
yeah.
like the theory of, watch it, you'll figure it out. He's got a cat, by the way, on his back.
Oh,
I
there
didn't
you
know
go.
that when I bought it.
There you go.
He's got a kitty cat with a Spider-Man.
You have
Nice.
the pig.
What?
But do you have the Spider Pig?
I do not have the Spider
And
Pig.
isn't his name Peter Porker?
I think so. I think so. I actually, it was funny. I just wanted, I wanted a Spider-Man. I bought that on a whim. I just wanted a Spider-Man that was jumping and doing this, thinking that was actually Spider-Man. I knew nothing about the Spider-Verse until I bought that. And then I had to go backwards and learn all that. So I didn't even know that thing existed.
You've been educated.
Yeah.
All right. Now I've saved the fifth one. This is the weirdest one, I think.
Go for it.
Some people might think the quantum multiverse is weird.
The fact that you think this is the weirdest one is taking us to a level that.
All right. This one.
Yeah.
This one, it relies on what's called the holographic principle.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in already.
This says that everything that's going on here, which is in 3 dimensions, is actually just a hologram.
Mm-hmm.
All the interactions are all taking place on a 2-dimensional surface.
Yeah.
At the edge of the universe.
Yeah.
And projecting into the volume a 3-dimensional hologram.
Isn't that weird?
Now that you probably think this sounds crazy. The science behind this comes from the fact that it was discovered that with a black hole, stuff falls into the black hole. It's called information. What turns out, everything you need to describe the information that goes into a black hole can fit on the surface of that black hole at the event horizon. So taking that theory, they said, well, then you could describe everything that happens in the universe on the 2-dimensional binding surfaces of the universe.
Wild.
And make a hologram. So we don't exist.
So this
something like that
podcast doesn't exist?
No.
In theory?
So should we pack it in now, or should we
just pack it in
next
now?
section?
No, I've willed it into
We exist. God. Unbelievable theories about the universe. I mean, and the fact that there is now a donut thrown into the mix, I think is even greater.
Oh, absolutely. Genius stuff. That's what, when you put that article out and Steve said it was interesting, I knew.
It's going to leap right on top of that sucker.
Like nothing, it's delicious.
Steve needs to talk about this. Thank you, Steve. Dude, genius stuff.
Well, before we leave space,
so damn smart.
Go for it.
Before we leave space, I do want to mention that something happened this week. Jeff Bezos of Amazon flew himself into space.
He did.
After the other guy did.
For a grand total of like maybe 2 commercial breaks, and then he came back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've decided I also want to go into space, and I've designed with Jeff Bezos's, brilliance in mind. I've designed my own rocket.
There you go. So, actually, technically, your rocket looks less like a penis than his does.
What are you talking about? and look, Jeff only went up, as Matt said, for like 2 commercial breaks. I really want to penetrate deep space.
Well, you deserve to do that.
And I have the fuel pods down here to make that happen. And here you can see this. Here's a window. Here's the cockpit. And I've got an Illinois Smith 2024 bumper sticker on.
Of course, you got to have that. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so let me just run on Jeff Bezos being an alien,
Quick tangent. Yep.
Okay, so first of all, the dude, nobody should bow to him at all. I'm glad he flew in a rocket. So it's some other douchebag that I didn't know his name. Shot up in the space. Shut up. This dude ruined books. We'll talk about that later.
Yep.
For everybody. That alien cocksucking asshole that dude is. I don't think that was a space travel for Bezos. I've said this before. It totally was. They sent his ass back to home.
Oh, yeah.
He came back.
Well, maybe he did. You can clone anybody at this point. They just got
felt up there.
They just got an idiot that looked like Jeff Bezos to be like, look, we did it. Then he went back home. They shot him back to his planet, his terrible planet that he's from.
Exactly.
Alien looking. That dude, his head is weird.
Him and Zuckerberg. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah,
and that dude from Twitter. He looks like he's like
Jack Dorsey
alien. Just launch it all the way up.
There it
Come on.
goes. There it goes.
All the way up. All the way up. Steve went into space.
There you go.
Look,
There you
I've got the fuel pods to make it happen right here. I made sure they were plenty swole.
Oh, that's too funny. You guys are killing me. Anyway, moving on. So let's move on to topic number 2, shall we? And let's talk a little bit about this patent.
Yes.
About this coronavirus vaccine that, since we have a patent lawyer here with us, Mr. Steve Murray.
This is
Can I call
where
you Esquire or no? You're not an Esquire, are you?
Oh, I'm an Esquire.
Oh, okay. Mr. Steve Murray, Esquire.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
And of course,
Mr. Steve Murray, Esquire to you, damn it.
There you go. We've got a PowerPoint, a wonderful staple of ours of Two Noobs. Of course, this is done by Mr. Steve Murray, Esquire. People Are Dumb, written by Kay, of course, of the movie Men in Black. But
Don't tell him.
I'll let you go ahead and have the floor there, bud.
You ruined it. I want to before I get into my presentation, I want to let John, because John found this.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Apparently some moron on TikTok was talking about this patent. I want to let John explain because we don't have the video.
Yeah.
I want him to explain what he saw.
Beautiful.
I just so you know, I just wanted to put this quote up there so we can talk about it. So I was scrolling on TikTok, and I'm very involved in the left and the right in the rabbit hole. I want to know what these idiots are talking about. And that just to be clear, and I went to Steve because I was concerned because this one seemed to get legs. This had like 35,000 likes.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So I'm like, we need to be on defense as being center middle. We can't let
the lunatics on either side.
the lunatics go either way. So this was an actual concern I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I composed a nice little email to my friend Steve, who happens to be a patent lawyer, and was like, hey, can you look at this? Because I don't feel good about it. Steve has then pulled it apart.
Well, what did he say? What did
He said that,
what did he say in the video?
Okay, so he said that we get coronavirus as man-made, right? We understand that. We probably could sit around and talk about gain of function research for a while. Okay? It's probably has something to do with that. What they were saying as that this is a bioweapon created from the United States government.
Good grief.
To kill their own people.
Good grief.
Yeah.
We're a little off the beaten path, don't you think, Johnny?
Absolutely, but we could say that it's a bioweapon in certain aspects. It could be a country creating a bioweapon to command another country, but the way these theories are going now, it's almost like
they're saying we did it.
Yeah, we did it to ourselves.
Yeah. Not the Chinese government. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So there isn't even an okay. So back in World War II, there at least was an enemy that we had to go defeat. Now what is happening is these outer sexual people, not sexual people, sexual people are creating. Yes, thank you, Steve. An environment that is clogging all misinformation.
Nice.
So now the government's just trying to kill us.
Well, I mean, we're taking over their capital, and you got to worry about that. I guess.
I don't really hate the idea.
Exactly.
But
let's get into this.
What I wanted to on the internet is I wanted to put something out with logic and intelligence.
Common sense? Really?
So
that's
people
awesome.
are dumb. Just so you know.
Let's
go ahead, Steve.
Person can be smart. People are dumb.
Yes.
There you go.
Go ahead, Steve. Here's the patent, by the way.
What's that?
Here's the patent for everybody. This is the patent that the government is killing everybody. Steve, as a patent lawyer, is going to break this thing down.
So John sent his email to me. I'll continue the story. I was looking at it. I would think I was out to pick up food, and I was looking at it on my phone. And what I tried to do, because I wasn't sure at first if, sometimes you get weird emails from people. You don't want to open attachments.
Sure.
Or click links. So what I tried to do was take the patent number and plug it in my own search. And I transposed the number
Oh.
So I pulled up a patent that had to do with OLED manufacturing. It's light emitting devices.
Kind of just a
Which,
little
by
bit
the way,
off the beaten path there, but
Which,
yeah.
by the way, confused the shit out of me when we were talking about it. 'Cause I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, I
No.
wrote back to him. I said, "Oh, this is about OLEDs. What's the problem?" And he's like, "Well, that's weird." I'm like, "Well, in any event, we got it straightened out." So
Yeah.
here's the patent. It's U.S. patent number 7279327.
Beautiful.
Hit next, John. You get it. The title blows up here, and I could see the title is called "Methods for Producing Recombinant Coronavirus." Now, I could see if some moron who doesn't know what a patent is not scientifically trained, would search or Google coronavirus and came across this, they might have reason to think it's nefarious.
Hey, what the heck's going on here? Yeah.
Totally understand that. That we all do that. We all quick search things that we're
No doubt.
not.
This is why people should not speak on things of which they are unclear. So hit next, John. So the first thing I'll point out, patents are public documents. Okay. If the U.S. government was working on a project, a top secret project that was trying to kill us, they would not file a patent application on it because it would be published. Okay. And this one in particular, you see it says PCT filed and PCT number. PCT is you can file an application that's basically like you're filing it. It's one application, but it sort of files internationally. So you can use it to enter and a whole bunch of countries later on.
You're covering all your legality, your legal basis.
Right. And then later on you decide, well, I'll go into the US with this application. I'll go into Europe with this application. I won't go into, the USSR, Soviet Union, whatever. So this was a PCT application. So this was filed internationally back in 2002. 2002. It was published in 2002. So this has been publicly available information since at least as early as October 31st, 2002, back when I was in college.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a year after my first son was born.
There you go.
Right.
Now 19.
And that May 25th, 2004, that Section 371 date, that is when it officially became a U.S. patent application.
Okay.
And if you hit go one more time, we'll see this is not U.S. government. This is not Chinese. This is three dudes who were going to the University of North Carolina.
Yeah.
University of North Carolina owned this patent at some point.
Interesting.
All right, next page. So let's
Before we start that, just so there is a conspiracy theory that the coronavirus started in North Carolina.
Is there?
Yes. So just so we can be clear.
It's not. Yeah.
It's probably where you got it from.
Maybe. Could be.
Moving on.
Also, as I believe John said to me, you guys have mentioned before in one of your earlier podcasts, coronavirus, as you'll see in a minute here, means a whole bunch of different things.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
COVID-19 is just one particular strain of coronavirus. Coronavirus encompasses common colds. And as we'll see in a minute, I believe, John, if you click next. Okay, so this is the first page of the patent. Very common thing. This comes from the background of the invention section. This is where they tell you basically the problem from which the invention in this patent arose. Okay, this is why we chose to invent this. This says transmissible gastroenteritis, TGE, is an economically important acute enteric disease of swine, which is often 100% fatal in newborn piglets. So we're talking about an intestinal disease that could be impacting the pig
population,
farming population.
Yeah.
Which is super important to produce something like this for the farming community.
Absolutely. And so Matt can get his pork chop.
Exactly.
100%. I had one last week. It was awesome. Good pork chop.
So now read a little further. TGE virus, the causative agent of TGE, is a member of the Coronaviridae family.
Yes.
So this TGE is a coronavirus.
Interesting.
And I highlighted the next part just because it'll tie into something a little bit later. It's also related to a swine pathogen, porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome virus, PRRSV.
Wow.
So they're related.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And just so everybody knows, this is a little bit beyond my technical
Mhm.
field. I'm a physicist by training. This is more biology and medicine.
Yep.
But I'm scientifically trained, and I can read patents, so I can understand patents, how they're written
Pretty clearly.
I also, my 2 summers in law school, I interned at a pharmaceutical company, and I have done some work with this kind of stuff.
Amazing.
Not often, but occasionally. So I can translate it for people.
Beautiful.
All right. So if we hit next, this is the next page in the patent. This is talking about. So they need vaccines, right? To treat these pigs so they don't get this virus.
Yes.
Live attenuated PRRSV vaccines causes viremia and may spread to other pigs.
Another disease, Steve.
So, yeah. So here's vaccines. Traditionally, vaccines were made using either dead or weakened viruses.
Mm-hmm.
So they would take the virus, make it into they would either kill it or have it in a weakened state and then inject it into you so that your immune system could develop the immunity. That's how traditional vaccines are created.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're saying in this case, when they injected live vaccines, when they injected the vaccines into the pigs, they could cause another problem and it could spread.
Wow.
Okay, so that's part of the problem they're seeking to solve. Hit next. Hence, improved vaccines are needed, right? All right, hit next. So that's what this is all about. We're trying to find a vaccine to help these pigs.
Yeah.
Okay, and now as all patents do, and as all good patent attorneys do, we're not going to limit it just to the TGE. We want to get as broad a coverage as we can. So we're going to say this can apply to coronaviruses. Okay, so this is a first aspect of the present invention is a helper cell for producing an infectious, replication defective virus particle. Okay, you read the highlighting down below. The combined expression of replicon RNA and helper RNA, blah, 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 produces an assembled nidovirus particle, which comprises the heterologous RNA sequence, is able to infect a cell, and is unable to complete viral replication in the absence of the helper RNA due to the absence of a structural protein, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
So what does that mean? That means the virus that's in the vaccine can infect a cell so that you'll get your immune response, but it cannot replicate itself, which is what viruses need to do in order to cause infection.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are controlling the amount of virus that gets into these pigs when you inject them with the vaccine. That's what's going on. All right, hit next. This is further on. The present invention describes the assembly of recombinant transmissible virus and replicons that express heterogeneous genes, which can be used to make vaccines against things like this coronavirus. Hit next. The use of replicons as a vaccine delivery system offers a number of important advantages over the use of live attenuated virus vaccines. Like I said before, that's how they used to do it, which are capable of independent spread and recombination with wild type virus populations. Okay, so not only could it spread when it's in you, it could combine with something else and make something new.
Absolutely.
Right? Replicon vectors are inherently safer alternative to the use of live attenuated virus vaccines due to the lack of progeny virus production. It can't reproduce itself. Okay. In addition, it can result in the use of a relatively low dose of virus replication particles. We don't need to put as many in the vaccine. Okay.
Oh, sorry. That's 2 noobs right there.
Well, I think I made my point.
No, yeah.
Definitely made your point.
This patent is about making a new way of making a vaccine by, instead of using a live version of the virus, you have a version of the virus that's been engineered so that it can infect a cell to trigger your immune response to fight it, but it cannot reproduce itself, and therefore it's not going to make you sick.
Interesting.
Okay.
Huh.
And it just so happens they can do this with coronavirus variants
Huh.
from
Yes.
North Carolina in 2002.
2000.
That is all this has to do with. This has nothing to do with COVID-19.
Huh.
This is bogus.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's such a key, and thank you for sharing that, Steve, on this podcast, because that's what we're all about, is getting the right information out.
You almost
That
can
is
say
key.
has
That
to
patent
count.
is absolutely key in that. It's written in 2002. This was not something that was planned. We didn't release this out into the public. I loved how at the beginning part, you're like, this was already published. Like, if you're going to release a deadly pathogen on people, you are not going to publish, here's how you do it to people. It's like, that is ridiculous. That's absolutely absurd.
Just to pat myself on the back for a little bit, when people go
There you
that way, like especially on social media,
Yeah.
when my receptors go up, when my like BS receptors go up, I will snatch 37 screenshots. And I like that. How that worked is I was like screenshotting it throughout the whole video because I need that patent number. Okay, so that's a patent. What we all should do is know the people around you. Thank God, one of my really good friends in life is a patent lawyer, and he could
Right there.
crap out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. And it's amazing just how incredibly naive and stupid some people are, and will
It could
look at
cause-
that patent and only see the headline.
That could
Holy
cause
cow,
us.
what
That
the
could
hell?
cause hysteria, and that's what social media and media does.
Yeah.
Nobody does research anymore.
Yeah.
The amount
But
of
this
research
kinda
that we
leads-
did for just this
yeah.
one segment is more research than CNN, Fox,
Yeah.
even ESPN has done
Yeah.
on a trade. We do
Yeah.
more research than they do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This kind of leads into our third topic, Johnny, does it not? I mean, we're talking
Absolutely.
about this. And we like to, as we said last week, cash receipts around here. And
Yes.
we definitely have this, because a lot of this vaccine hesitancy, if we're getting into the political world here, conservatives
need
bring
to.
the receipts on Democrats' vaccine misinformation. Town Hall article. And it says here, last week, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who needed to circle back, argued social media sites should deplatform and ban individuals. So much for freedom of the press, freedom of speech, who spread misinformation about Wuhan coronavirus vaccines. But if that's the new standard, Psaki herself should be removed from another number of social media sites. Why? Because vaccines
I'll just
are the
flip
only
this
topic
up on
they've
the
misled
screen.
people. Yep.
I'll just flip this on the screen. This is the receipts they're caching, by the way.
And there
This
are a
is
ton.
Twitter, Facebook of everybody talking.
Let's just stop right there. Here, a couple of them here. Yeah, the media didn't help. Some of them, like at Foreign Policy, were very clear about what they thought of a vaccine approved by a Trump administration. This one from @Lori_Garrett. And so there's a link in there that you could click on to her Twitter, and it won't be to her. I don't think it'll go specifically
Oh,
to
never went
they
there.
had-
That was dumb. Okay,
I think
moving
they
on.
had a direct link to
direct link there. But in any event, all of those individual links to all of their individual Twitters are like, nope, not going to take the Trump vaccine. We
There
heard
were-
this.
There were
Remember.
the top three were whatever her name is, Jen, whatever. her
Jen
name is.
Psaki, yeah.
I don't listen to her at all. She just fumbles over everything, just like we are right now with that whole thing. But we're not paid $400,000 to talk about what Biden is thinking about.
Yeah, or might be thinking about.
Yeah,
Possibly.
that might or might not be thinking about.
Trying to get out of it.
Or,
But the
yeah,
point is, that whole article in Town Hall, if you look at it, they have individual tweets that were dating back prior to, with the Trump administration, where they were rushing to get the vaccines out the door quickly.
Yes.
And a lot of them were saying, nope, not going to take the vaccine.
Kamala Harris being one of them.
As Trump's authentication or whatever the case may be, I am not going to take it. Now all of a sudden, you flip it 6 months later, they get their guy in there, and they're having difficulties trying to get people jabbed in the shoulder. I wonder why that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah, now they're pushing it like it's the most important thing.
Hmm.
When 6 months ago they were
And part of
saying
that is
absolutely
politics,
no
but
way positively I would take that.
yeah. But again, it goes kind of back to what we were talking about earlier with Bill Maher, how all three of us were kind of like, holy cow, we're agreeing with Bill Maher. He was
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
I
well,
don't want my medical
yeah.
history and my medicine and my doctor to be politicized. This is a prime example of it right here, gents. I don't know what
It's
else to say
yeah,
about it.
it's weird. Like the misinformation is just weird. The kind of just to pull everybody up to speed, if you're coming in late with this, is Steve's a patent lawyer and he's able to rip a patent apart, and that just fell. Uh,
Like that.
he ripped a patent apart that is being used for misinformation.
Yeah.
Our first segment is something that is how many universe theories are there, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's way more than I gave you. I gave you 5 in addition to the
Exactly.
donut.
Kind of bringing it all together is if you're looking to the media and not the books and the science or the not even you don't need to go to the education systems. You need to go to the library, which barely exists.
Ask
You
your
learn about what
doctor.
you need to learn.
Yeah.
Ask your doctor, for God's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Going to places that Steve spent a ton of time in school to be able to do that. He just didn't wake up yesterday and
Yeah.
be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
He spent some time in school.
Well, it's
Most
just
of our friendship, you were in school.
it's just amazing to me that this is really just boils down to reading comprehension and a lack of it.
Yes, and it's missing.
Clearly.
It's absolutely missing in this work. You definitely see it on social media.
You see it not only in social
Even
media, Johnny, you see it everywhere. You see it in the sports world, you see
Yeah.
it in, news broadcasts.
Well,
You even see it in churches. There
it's
are so much like reading comprehension. What does the text actually say? You see it in US history classes, for God's sakes. People can't interpret the US Constitution anymore. It
it's not
really is
just
amazing to me.
it's not just reading it's not just problem of reading comprehension, it's also agendas.
No
You know,
doubt.
the reason the reason
No
the
doubt.
reason these people
Yep.
were saying back before the election that they weren't going to take a Trump vaccine was they didn't want him getting credit for fixing the problem.
Which
Yeah,
is
'cause
Now
really
that
could-
pathetic.
Biden's in
yeah,
office,
'cause
it's
he coulda
okay.
easily
Now it's
been
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
fixing the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Steve is right. There's corruption in all of it.
Yeah.
And
Someone on this podcast said a while back, I'm not going to mention who, but he said, it's not the virus itself, but it's the corruption behind the virus that's the issue here. And
thank you. I appreciate
that guy right there said it. So
yeah, send your hate mail to me. There's your PO box. Yeah. And Steve's dick rising up.
Love it. Love it.
Cash receipts.
Cash
motherfucker.
receipts around here. That's what we do. That's what we do.
But it comes from both sides. Like
Oh, it sure does.
the
Absolutely.
patent we're talking about was coming from the right side. The lefties, panning the vaccine pre-election, that's coming from the left
That's
side.
coming
Yeah,
from your
I'm
side.
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure if I had the kind of time, that I didn't want to spend with my wife and my children, I could come up with 87 different things from both sides that
Oh, yeah.
are ridiculous. Most of them just need to shut up
Yeah.
and let us talk.
Yeah, exactly. That 10 to 15% just needs to kind of just go over
We're
here.
gonna
And
cut that right there. We're gonna throw
exactly.
that out.
Exactly.
Throw
So-
that on Instagram and get hate mail.
Exactly. So let's move on, gents. I think this is going to be a very interesting topic number 4.
Oh, I absolutely
Myth
think
of
so.
expired food. And to be honest with you, this was a very fascinating article from Vox.com. And I'll just read like the first paragraph here. Maybe you know the routine.
Well, wait, read the headline.
Oh, the
because
headline.
It
Yeah,
ties
the
into
headline.
misinformation.
Yeah, the lie of expired food and the disastrous truth of America's food waste problem, which I completely 100% agree with. I think we are wasting a
Absolutely.
ton of food. Maybe you know the routine. Every so often I go through my refrigerator. This is not me talking. This is the author.
No, Steve.
Check labels on the items and throw out anything that's a month or a week or maybe even a few days past the date on the label. I might stop the sniff, but for my whole adult life, I figured the problem was obvious. My jam or almond milk or package of shredded Italian cheese blend really had expired.
Good
quote
for
unquote.
pizzas.
Yeah, exactly. And the fix was simple. chuck it into the garbage. This habit was so ingrained that when I think about eating food that's gone past its date, I even get a little queasy. I've only had food poisoning once or twice in my life, always from restaurants, but the idea is still there in my head. Past the date, I'll get sick. You'll never
Can I-
catch me dumpster diving. So
Can I
let's,
point? Can I point this out real quick just before we get rid of the screenshot?
yeah.
This is the problem with misinformation in this world. This is a landmark study. I have read this study. Anybody that sees this link, there's a landmark study in 2013. Okay, it's by Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of this, and I'm obsessive about food shortages and
Mm-hmm.
food waste. Worked in restaurants. I'm very worried about, like, I don't believe in expired anything.
Yeah.
I just don't, like, if it smells bad, if it looks bad, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I've cooked with food 2 weeks after the date because it didn't smell bad. It actually smelled like it should have, and then when I cooked it, it smelled better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I believe that was something that society put out a long time ago.
Long time ago.
During like the whole mall and fast food consumption. That was a big
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't want you to cook. They
No.
wanted you to go out. They wanted you to go to Bob's Big Boys or
Did you happen to see
or
though,
wherever you would go to get your food instead
Yeah.
of making it yourself.
John, did you happen to see that in that article? And Steve, I'm sure you probably did see it. That we throw out between $1,360 to over $2,000.
It's
I
excessive.
believe it.
That's
It's
incredible,
excessive.
is it not?
And then the left comes and says that our carbon footprint's too
Yeah.
big. Yeah, well, it is because we're throwing out all this.
Because
food.
we're throwing out a ton of food.
We don't have enough. We don't have enough trucks, which cause pollution. Enough.
And how much of that food could go to any sort of, like, fill abundance, for God's sakes?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have the food, like, it's funny. It's like I
Wouldn't
can
even
remember
use
there
that
was a
much
couple of
food.
times where it was like I had some leftover food, and it's like, I instinctively, I think I don't want to say I'm guilty of that, but the
I think
thought
we all
process
are.
was, okay, well, it's not good enough. I'll just chuck it.
Yeah.
The thought process doesn't kick into my head. You idiot! Why don't you go down to Fill Abundance and give them the food as opposed to just chucking it away?
But that's the system that caused all of this.
Yeah.
And that's where these expiration dates come from.
Where do you think that came from? The whole idea of the expiration date.
It's a government. It's a government.
Was that
entity.
FTA?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you think?
The most corrupt of all, the FDA.
Yeah.
This in my house is a big issue with me because my wife is a slave to the expiration dates.
Mm.
No, I understand. Mine too. Mine too.
And
Totally
I
fine.
to me I use my senses. Every time I open the milk container, and I've drank milk that's like 2 weeks past the date on the
You're
carton.
sniffing it.
Open it, I sniff it. It's instinctual. I go, all right, smells good. Into the glass it goes, down my throat.
Not gonna
No
die from
problem.
this.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, meat is the one thing I think I'm probably the most careful
You
about
have
with
to
like
be. You
dates.
have to be.
Yeah.
But even meat, you can look at it and be like, yeah, that doesn't smell
That
right.
doesn't smell good.
Yeah.
Chuck
Right.
it.
I don't want to. I don't want to cook that because that doesn't look like it did.
Yeah.
Right. Or appearance too. Bad meat looks different than good meat.
Oh, no doubt about that.
I'll tell you a quick story. I don't cook chicken thighs a lot. A lot at all, right? But I'm starting to get into it because I like the flavor of it. My wife made a dish a couple weeks ago, and I was like,
Thigh, man.
I'm kind of into the chicken thigh thing. My first question to her, not knowing much about chicken thighs, is I was like, does that look okay? Because it doesn't look like the traditional chicken breast.
Mhm.
So I can understand how you could be alarmed by something that you're not used to.
Oh, sure.
Because I was like, I don't know if that looks okay. She's like, it's perfectly fine.
Huh.
Made it up. It tasted fine. You know what I mean?
go.
I didn't die from it. But I could see how you putting an expiration date on something and years and years go by of people kind of learning and relying more on that than they are their senses, which I know our parents used to.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking, So you're getting to now another generation. I could see how the food waste would get even worse.
Yeah.
Because you're not training people and you don't have people around you to be like, well, I'm not sure that this is okay. So I can go to my compadre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Even-
good. That's, you know what I mean? Like, we're missing that.
We are.
Even
that
expiration
causes it.
dates, expiration date itself is a kind of a misnomer.
Mhm.
There are different types of dates that go onto the food.
Yes.
A lot of them it says best by.
Yes.
Mhm.
That gives a date. That does not mean that after that date it's bad for you. Like my wife again panics. It's just like, oh, this
Oh my
bag of
God.
chips is a week or 2 weeks past its best by date. I mean, does that mean I'm going to get sick if I eat it? I'm like,
No.
the worst thing that could happen is your chips are stale.
Yeah.
It
And
might
at that
not
point-
taste as great.
That's a great
Yeah.
point.
Okay,
That's a
like
great point.
spice. Oh my God, this thing of cinnamon is 2 years past its best by date. Well, it might lose some of its potency, but it's not going to
use
kill
more.
you.
Yeah, use more cinnamon.
Right,
Bingo.
exactly.
No, that's a great point. But that's such a great point, Steve, because again, the thought process is, okay, if I see that date and it's like a week later and I'm making something and it's like, oh my God, the cinnamon, the best by date's over a week old. Am I going? The hesitancy
Yes.
instinctually is like,
And that's what
it can't be.
causes the
It's got to be
waste.
the best. We got to stop that. I completely agree with the
The
article.
misinformation is what's causing the waste. But
Yes.
they're not telling you what it means.
Yeah.
And like we said, humans aren't stupid,
Yeah.
but society is stupid. When you get into mass production, you're going to get you're going to get the top priority that make enough money that don't actually care.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the cheese is whatever.
I'll
You
just
know what
chuck
I mean?
this, I don't need it.
I'll just go get some more.
Mm-hmm.
You get the poor that is watching that date like a hawk.
Yeah.
You got to eat this. You got to eat this today.
Yeah, like, and you know what I mean. And that's where and then maybe you make 6 macaroni dishes, and then your kid doesn't want to eat it anymore, and then he hates macaroni, and he just throws macaroni away when he's an adult. When you get to middle class, with me, I didn't know what was going on. Like, I had to learn everything outside the house because I didn't know. Like,
And meanwhile, we're throwing over, I'm going to say on average, $1,750 in food every year per
insane.
household.
It's insane.
It really is. And it's something that we need to think about. And really, the food donations can't just be at Thanksgiving and Christmas, because you always see that every single
It has to
year.
be year round. Yeah,
It's got to be year round. I agree. Yeah.
Our,
I mean,
It starts with something like, okay, is this good enough? Yes, it is. Do I need it? No, I don't. I'm going to give it away.
Yeah.
That's the
Our,
thought process we have.
our food gets donated to the chipmunks, unfortunately.
awesome.
It's thrown out the
Yo,
door.
you're helping the
My
environment.
question is, do you give it to Alvin as well? Do you give it to Alvin and the Chipmunks, or
No, he's a punk.
I figured it's
He can
fun.
go to hell. And let me tell you something else about expiration dates too.
Go for it.
It doesn't just apply to food. I found this out because my father worked in the pharmaceutical industry for years.
Mm-hmm.
The expiration dates on your medicine, in most cases, it's probably still okay.
Yeah.
If your Tylenol is a month past its date, you can still take it.
Take
Yeah,
it.
it probably still works.
It probably still works. Again, the longer you go, the less effective it might be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you've got 2-year-old Tylenol, it's probably pointless to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But in most cases, with stuff like that, it's probably not going to hurt you.
1-2 months after,
Yeah.
you're gonna be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Maybe that's what we need to focus on as humanity. Is expiration dates aren't. It's not about hurting you. It's about and that's what we were sold when we were kids.
Mhm.
Oh, it's expired. You're gonna die.
Yeah. Or
Like,
you
that's
could
where
get
the
really
misinformation
sick.
comes in. Like,
Yeah.
if the media's throwing this, but the pharmaceutical companies and the food industries aren't combating and fighting it,
Mhm.
then the misinformation is going to win every time.
No doubt.
Well, the food industries has no reason to fight it because that just means you're going to go back and buy more bread.
It's true, but
You're gonna
that's
buy more bread more frequently because you're throwing out usable
Yeah.
bread.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you can't stop that, but you should want to.
That's the goal. Really, at the
I
end.
do my best. I try to use everything to.
I think we all do a really good job. I think that's why this article popped all of us.
Oh,
yeah,
Like, I was
100%.
that's
Yeah,
like interesting. Like, okay,
it makes sense. I mean, it's like it's amazing. Like in terms of just the idea. I think the thing that really stood out to me was just the number of the dollar amount that we were throwing out. That's shocking. That's shocking to see something like that in that kind of a study. It's like that should really wake everybody up. To be
Look,
honest with you,
Look, if your bread doesn't have mold, it's
you're fine.
stale. Okay, make a grilled cheese.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. It's really that simple. It really
Hey,
is.
hey, there used to be our mutual friend Eddie and I. There was a movie theater up Huntington. It's on County. It used to be on County Line Road.
Caroline
There's
Road.
a new one there now, but there was an old like Regal Cinema,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a dollar store
Mm.
in that same shopping center.
Mm-hmm.
You could go into that dollar store and buy a pack of like the Entenmann's donuts
Oh,
for $1 instead of the $3.99 or whatever the hell we pay for it now.
that's amazing.
You could buy it for $1 because it was at its expiration date.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing wrong with those donuts.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to just, and I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. It really comes down to just trusting your senses, trusting where things are, and then going for, it's like if it smells good, you're fine. If it doesn't, then you toss it. And that's going to be, going to be tough to get over that expiration date because you're thinking like, oh my God, it's going to be done by this particular date. And you're, okay.
And it,
They're just stamping dates. That's all they're doing. Yeah.
and it became actually interesting in our house this week because we've lost power twice.
Yeah.
Or each time it was a period close to or over 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kept the fridge shut and the freezer shut as much
Yep.
as we could, which was,
Yep.
we just had off limit to the fridge.
No doubt.
But now, respective of the dates or not, now we got to kind of go through and evaluate, is this food still good?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're forced to use your senses. You can't even rely on a date. You got to look at it and be like, because I don't want to just blindly throw everything that was in the fridge out. That's kind of stupid if it's usable.
Totally agree.
We had a thing of cheese in there. It was perfectly fine. So I finished it throughout the week.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, can't ask for any better than that. Well, gents, topic 5, and we're talking ESPN. All three of us, of course, were raised back in the day on ESPN Sports Center. And then by around the mid-90s, Disney bought that cable channel and proceeded to put it into the toilet and has now basically barfed into it and flushed it down the sewer drain.
Pretty much.
That's, over a 25-year period.
Yeah,
But
I think that's the nicest way you could have said that.
I was trying to think, like, what? How can I positively spin this? Exactly, exactly. Just rocketed that dick ship up to the moon. It's like just terrible.
They literally need to end up. They need to, Matt. You just genius. We need to sell this to ESPN right now.
Yeah,
That's what they need to do. The Denanet rocking this dick ship up to the moon to be their opening for anything they do. You
Really?
really have it. Like,
no doubt. But of course, all three of us grew up watching. And we hate to make it an old man yelling at cloud rant here, but we're going to do that. We're going to yell at
get
the
off
cloud.
my lawn.
Exactly. We're going to do a get off my lawn segment here. But at the same time, it's like this has really been on our minds because we all watched it and loved it. We did watch ESPN a lot. I can remember NFL Primetime with Chris Berman and Tom Jackson. Greatest NFL highlight packages you could ever think of. And I mean, just a lot of fun to watch. That's in the crapper. Then you had Sports Center. And you had Kenny Mayne. And you had, all the other, all the
Love
guys.
Kenny Mayne.
Kenny Mayne was
It's
great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
great.
Very
Great on
dry
ESPN
sense of
too. They
humor.
wasted him on ESPN.
In the crapper. I mean, it was just one thing after another, and then they started with the talk shows.
Your favorite
First
part?
take. Pardon the interruption. Around the horn. They started to replace what made ESPN great was they did Sports Center all the way straight through from like 7 a.m. all the way to 3. Then maybe they did a couple of talk shows. Then it was right to Sports Center leading you into the games. I mean, it was terrific. It was a sports show. Then the
That's
talk
the
shows
point.
came. And, I'd like to know from each of you, since we did this in pre-production, when you started to watch ESPN, when you started to turn off ESPN, and really if you were the head of ESPN, what would you do to try and change it, to make it better? So since we have that, I will go to my co-host, my regular co-host, John. What are your thoughts? When did you stop watching ESPN?
2002,
Okay.
2003.
Okay.
Not putting it on anymore. I was also in around the major part was when CSN Philly existed.
Mm-hmm.
When they kind of got their legs, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted my local sports more than my regular
National
sports.
news, yeah.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was never. I think I stopped going to ESPN other than Sunday night baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And when football went on there, after they got rid of hockey, they got none of my time other than those two things. Sunday night, Sunday night football, I think was on there
Games.
for a minute.
Yeah.
The games, basically.
Yeah, the games. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was only games that I would go to ESPN. Like Sports Center by the time Oberman was a thing, I think I was already checked out
Mm-hmm.
with the regular Sports Center
Yep.
because all that was just slapstick. It was just slapstick white boy comedy, and that's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want you to make up a new word for a goal that was scored.
Yeah.
Like I don't need that. Like even Berman kind of pissed me off with the back. Like
Gone. Yeah.
like dude, that's annoying after the 12th time I heard it. It was cool the first time you did it.
Home Run
But why
Derby got a
didn't
little
you-
tiring. Yeah.
And here was another thing I hate about ESPN. Why did you put him on the home run derby so he does back every single time?
Every time.
Now you've just literally got me to a place where I want to beat my TV.
Overdone. It was overdone.
A little
Yeah.
overdone. A little
And-
overcooked.
And I think that's my whole
Yeah.
anger with ESPN. Everything they did that was cool was overdone within a week.
Yeah.
Even Stuart Scott, who I love,
Yeah.
his SB speech before he passed away was
One of the greatest.
incredible. Like that man was an incredible human being,
No doubt.
and ESPN paid him a ton of money to make him a clown.
Yeah.
And I think he realized that on his way out because his speech kind of said some things like that.
No
And
doubt.
Good on him. man.
Probably, if he was play-by-play, could you imagine if play-by-play for the NFL?
He'd have been amazing.
He would have been amazing for that. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Murray, when did you stop watching ESPN?
I think I'm going to concur with John. I think it was a little bit later than 02. It was probably more like 05-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But it was mid 2000s.
Okay.
And I'm going to echo kind of the Sports Center thing, which was,
Yeah.
when I first started watching Sports Center, it was in the 90s. It was Olbermann and Dan Patrick,
Yeah.
Charlie Steiner, and respectable individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Charlie Steiner
exactly.
was a reporter / then was commit. Like those are the guys we grew up on.
No doubt.
Right.
Yep.
So they were good personalities.
Yeah.
Then you had Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott came along, who I loved. They had great chemistry. They worked really well together.
Mhm.
I think what happened was Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott were so successful
Mm-hmm.
that ESPN tried to make all their other anchors for SportsCenter
Them.
carbon copies of them. And so, to use John's word, they ended up hiring and using a bunch of clowns
Yeah.
to report the sports.
Yeah.
And that's a great point that you made, Steve, because that's exactly what it was. Because I think their peak of goodness was Rich Eisen, Stuart Scott.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And like literally, I think that was their peak. They took that Berman, Tom Jackson thing
Mm.
for the Sunday night wrap up kind of thing, which everybody knows all about. That's one of the greatest shows ever in its infancy. Was
Oh.
football genius because they took Berman's back, and they were able to run you in a 30-40 minute segment to
Yeah.
catch you up on all the NFL before the NFL Network and before all that.
No
That's
doubt.
genius. I have no issues with that. I mean,
No doubt.
I want to hate them after that because what they did is, like Steve's saying, they made carbon copies of these idiots.
Yeah.
And then the NFL Network makes carbon copies of the idiots. So everybody's now just doing idiot stuff.
No doubt.
Right.
Yeah. It's
And-
yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
And so furthering that, Sports Center used to be, it would give you highlights from everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd get football,
Mhm.
basketball, college sports, baseball, hockey. You'd get Tour de France. You'd get,
Yeah, you would get FIFA.
You get FIFA.
Yeah, you
Crammed
would
it
get
all in an
international stuff.
hour.
and that in an hour.
Yeah.
But then they started doing something that pissed me off, which is like they would spend the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they had the exclusive rights for certain things.
Yep.
Yeah.
They would spend the first 10 minutes. Oh, we're going to examine Duke blowing this mid-level college out by 40
Yeah.
points. You know, and it's like,
Yes.
do we really need to dissect that? And then
Not
so
really.
the other stuff like hockey, for example,
Yep.
would be like, oh, by the way, the Bruins beat the Rangers 3-2 last night.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were and they got rid of the international stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Like, I
and-
don't think I've seen I've seen ESPN in the last couple of years. I don't think they cover any. They cover basketball.
If they do cover international, John, it's usually usually soccer. That's pretty much it. And even their soccer.
But you can't even
broadcasts are
you
terrible.
can't even get you. But you can't get soccer coverage in the United.
Like, I would much rather watch the NBC Sports coverage of the Premier League than those clowns on ESPN. It's like they're just overhyped,
That's all other thing. We can't really hate on ESPN because that was also at the same time. Like, I want to hate on ESPN. And I
I'm
will.
totally, I can and I will.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I want to be involved in that
Yeah.
bar fight. But I want to just bring a second perspective to it.
Yeah.
That also, ESPN also came to the regular streaming of local TV with Comcast getting involved around that same time.
Mhm.
Fox Sports. You know what I mean? Mountain
your
Valley
FS1s
Sports or
and your
whatever, there's a
FS2s
ton. So ESPN was doing it in an era where they were kind of biting off. So you got a lot of inundation of sports.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they were, just maybe, I still hate them, but I'm just saying, maybe they were trying to pull themselves away because I know CSN Philly, to this day, I like CSN Philly. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they do a good job.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
No doubt.
Well,
Yeah.
to
Well, they give me what I want.
Yep.
Matt, to your point about the talk shows,
Oh,
I don't necessarily have a problem with that because CSN Philly ran Daily News Live for years.
Great, or in the early, great show.
great
Absolutely.
show.
But you know why it was a great show? Because they had real journalists
Yep.
Yeah.
from the paper on the show and
it
not
wasn't
guys just trying to
slapstick.
make names for themselves nationally.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly what really
I-
turned me off with
Yeah.
ESPN going on to that, because then for me it was all about the introduction of Pardon the Interruption, where you have your old man and your racist. And I will leave it to our audiences to figure out who's who, because
Yeah.
you can interchange either one
Oh,
of them.
no, you're absolutely
And
right.
it doesn't matter who it is. They're either an old man or a racist, and that's it. That's
By the
pretty
way,
much
they're
it.
both old and they're both racist.
Exactly. And they interchange each other beautifully. But again, Steve, to your point, you're exactly right. I think Daily News Live for me was, you had your writers of like Marcus Hayes, you had all the other guys, but they were all local. That was the thing. What made it so great was the fact that they were all there and they were beat writers. That's a huge step forward. I think that's why The Athletic is so popular. If you go onto the Athletic app, all it is a bunch of beat writers. That's all it is. And they're covering their teams. And it's fantastic. And you get your Jason Starks and you get, all the other national guys. But if you ever get a chance to go into that app, it's fantastic.
Needs
It's
love, by the way. Jason Stark needs love. He never sold out.
No, he did not.
He made more money. He never sold out.
He never sold out.
Jason Stark's one of the best ever. His writing and his interviews are the same from the 80s
Yes.
that they are now. He never sold out.
Yeah. Yeah. He
There
was
are
tremendous.
a lot of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are also a lot of them terrible, like Reuben Frank.
Reuben Frank sometimes can come across as an old man yelling at the cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does.
There's a few. Well, Marcus Hayes sold out after a while.
Yeah.
No, they were good in the beginning. They were good, but maybe that's what happens. Maybe it just dies out.
It just does. Yeah. Sometimes it just does.
Well,
But how do we make that?
I'm now gonna reveal semi-bias in this conversation though.
Oh, go for it.
Okay,
Oh,
that's fine.
Go for it.
Just for full disclosure, so people understand,
Yep.
because they probably ought to know this. It irks me to this day that ESPN has like localized sites. So it's got
Yep.
ESPN Los
Washington.
Angeles,
Yep.
ESPN Washington. I believe there's an ESPN Dallas.
There is. There is.
Philadelphia has all 4 major sports
Yeah.
leagues covered
Mhm.
Nowhere to be found.
Well, you know why they won't do that?
because of Comcast.
They won't go against. They won't go against the rate. I've heard Missinelli say this because Fanatic was ESPN before it was the Fanatic, before it was bought again.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Missinelli said it a bunch of times. They don't want to play here
ESPN.
because they can't put one of their mimic dudes
Well, that's
in
true.
there. No one's gonna listen to him. Even though funny, I'll disagree with Mike Missinelli because the highest rated show at one time in Philly was Golick and
Greenberg.
what's his name, the
Greenberg.
ESPN morning show
Yeah.
when it was 950 before it was 97.5.
Thank
No
you.
doubt.
Thank you for reminding me. That was the one exception I had
That's the
for
only exception in
ESPN.
Greenberg
Philly
and
radio.
Golick was
And I'm a
good.
huge Philly radio fan.
Yeah.
That's the only time the outside ever beat us.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No doubt.
Because
Well-
Cataldi for
Well, I mean, Cataldi
Cataldi
lost
for
his mind
20
like 10
years,
years
was
ago.
on
Yeah.
top. You couldn't put a national guy against him.
No. But he also lost his mind like 10, 12 years ago. So, I mean, he is
But that was after his 20-year run.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
He was that guy, and Missinelli's been that guy in drive time
Yeah.
for a long time.
For a while.
You couldn't put a guy. You couldn't put Josh Ennis against him,
Mm-hmm.
and Josh Ennis knows more about sports than anybody on the
Mhm.
planet.
Yeah.
But he couldn't even compete against Missinelli
Yeah.
because Missinelli's Philly, and we're gonna back Missinelli.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's
And
just
we
the
may
way-
disagree with him, and that's fine,
how
but
the
he's
Philly
Philly.
radio market works. You
Yeah.
just put a dude out there that's Philly. We're just like, we like him.
Yeah, we may hate his guts, but
Yeah,
he's Philly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Eskin made a 40-year career off of it.
Exactly.
Nobody likes that dude. I do. He
Exactly.
bought me a beer at a Flyers game. He's gold to me for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
Further full disclosure: ESPN's coverage of hockey
Is awful.
was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they improve it now that they've got it back.
Can I
but,
can I knock on wood somewhere? Can I?
I hope.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. After hockey came back from their year lockout in 04-05 and was on the Outdoor Life Network,
Yeah, that didn't
Yes.
quite work out.
I was so thrilled it wasn't ESPN. I was like,
No, absolutely.
Neil Smith on the first broadcast was really
Yes.
creepy to me. Creeped me out, but I'm like, I'm sticking with this because it's not ESPN.
Yeah, and then it went to Versus, and then
Well,
eventually-
OLN became Versus.
Versus. That's right.
So you know, and
I
that was
had
fun.
the hat, by the way.
I have one too.
Do you really? Oh wow!
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, we were hockeyed up at that point. We were
That's
just
weird.
going for it.
Yeah,
Any broadcast of hockey at that point.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that reminds me. I turned on ESPN in 2010 Sports Center.
Mm.
Saturday morning after the Flyers completed the 7-game comeback on Boston.
On the Boston.
It was actually the lead on Sports Center.
There you go.
Which is
I will give them
incredible.
credit. They recognized
Finally, they recognize history. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Wow.
I mean, real quick to wrap it up, gents. What do you think would be the best thing we could do to change the network? Do we just reboot the whole thing?
Yeah, I think you got to blow the whole thing up.
Yeah,
Start
you
over.
gotta look at
Don't you?
You gotta look sports in a different way. I would remove an ESPN totally.
Yeah.
And work on two things. People that want national, every league should have a national network where they promote their brand. Whether it be even FIFA, like you should have FIFA TV. You should
Well,
have.
and to some
Yeah.
extent they do, John. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
No, I know, but you need to use it in a better
Yeah.
realm of that. Like that's on basic cable.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Because
Got
that's
it.
all premier channel stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to redefine sports,
Mm-hmm.
you need to redefine it as okay, so everything is basic cable.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody has their local sports. You
Mhm.
also have your regular channel sports of your news.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a national show, which would be ESPN, that works with those networks and even the local networks Because you could create a national show, but do Sports Center 24/7.
Yeah.
That's the only way you would fix it.
good people.
With good people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With good people. Find good people, but do 24/7 of them just doing the national headlines, but give people the ability, because maybe Matt doesn't have the same amount of time I have in the morning to watch sports, right? So Matt could cook on ESPN, catch it up. Maybe Steve, you've got a even more lax schedule. You could catch their morning show on CSN. You know what I mean? You got to develop everything for everybody at this point in the world, because you're going to get things like this where we're shitting on it.
Yeah, because it's not what it once was. And yeah, exactly. We can never go back to what it once was, but we could certainly blow it up and just think like, look, you got to get more sports heavy content on it.
That's what I would think, that you would need to work, that all three parties would need to work together in a way. Cable companies would definitely need to stop charging so much money.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we could get, if you like FIFA, you should probably get a basic cable channel with nothing but FIFA on it.
Good. Steve, what were you going to say? Real quick.
I forget.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't make any sense why you have to pay premium rates for something so simple as sports.
Yeah.
I think that's
you have to,
point.
like, it has to be part of a package. Like, you've got, like, the MLB network on its separate pack. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
You don't need that.
You don't need that. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
They need to stop. They need to stop controlling, because we pay their salary. They don't pay ours.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to stop that nonsense.
Yeah. Well, gents, we've hit our happy. So let's talk real brief.
Look, he got happy.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. We kind of were like, oh, well, we don't have usually with a happy segment, there's usually an inspirational video, really nice story. We don't have that this week, but we ended up talking a little bit in pre-production about the books we like to read. And since we were talking, obviously, about the importance of reading and good reading comprehension, we thought we'd do a little quick roundtable on what books we've enjoyed over the course of our lives and why we enjoy reading in the first place, kind of along those lines. So I'll start with Mr. Murray. Sir, what would you say would be, I guess, one or two books that you've really enjoyed over the course of your life here on this planet?
It is really hard for me to pinpoint one or two. I've read a ton. Back when I was going to the office, riding the train for a half an hour, I brought a book with me to read.
Yep.
Because it seemed like a good use of the time.
Decent idea.
I've read about 5 Ian Fleming Bond novels, which are easy reads. You can get into it. They're not long. They're great novels to read. I read a lot of Stephen King. His stuff is good. Salem's Lot was really long, but I had a real hard time putting it down. The Dead Zone, Running Man, they're all terrific. Shining, obviously. And I also read a lot of science fiction stuff. Philip K. Dick is really good. Nice. He wrote he's got a novel called A Scanner Darkly, which was really cool. He writes also a lot of short stuff. One of his short stories is called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? That actually served as the inspiration for Blade Runner.
That's awesome.
His stuff is really good. H.G. Wells, Island of Dr. Moreau, The Time Machine. And then probably I'll finish with one of my favorite sci-fi guys. His name is John Campbell. I don't know if he has any novels. I have a compendium called A New Dawn. Really good short stories. There's one called Blindness, which is really kind of, the twist at the end of it is like, whoa, that's kind of messed up. But it's cool. And he also, one of his short stories in there is also called Who Goes There, which was the basis for the movie The Thing.
Nice.
With Kurt Russell and Keith David. So
that's awesome.
That's all. That's good stuff.
That is absolutely good stuff. Yeah, John, any books fancy you?
Oh God, I've kind of been all over the place. I'm more of a biography guy.
Oh, okay.
I like to read Artie Lang's book. Was something I read like a year ago that I'm enthralled in people and how the hell you made it through. Yeah. And if you're willing to write a book about it, I'll totally listen to it. My favorite book of all time is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's 5 novels in one. It took me forever to read, but I could never put it down.
There you
That
go.
was the best part about it. I think not even the story. I mean, the story's funny. It's British humor, and that's my thing. But
Yeah.
the fact that it was the one and only book in my life that I was just like, okay, I'm done reading. Oh, wait a minute. I just need to know what happens next. Like, I kept picking it up. And
Yeah.
that kind of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy made me fall in love with reading.
Yeah.
I'm a short story writer and a reader big
Mm.
time. I love short stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something. If you don't like reading,
Mm.
go and that's me.
Go a
Like I don't
short story.
like to read
Yeah.
for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Short stories are amazing.
Yeah.
There's a million people that write short stories, even on the internet. Instagram, I follow like 12 of them. I can't even think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But they're like little quips of just like quick little stories that just make me smile. Reading's fun.
Yeah.
We're
really
trying to get people off the devices, John.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, as long as if you're reading, you're fine. Don't look at working, and don't look at
exactly.
don't look at the ads trying to sell you plants.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I would have to. I mean, it runs the gamut. Like many of what you guys have already said. I mean, of course, the classics, Catcher in the Rye, of course, would be one, and Great Gatsby another.
That was a great book.
It's such a great book. You'd read that mostly in high school, of course, but outside of that, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. I mean, C.S. Lewis. You can't go wrong with C.S. Lewis. For me, I've always been a huge fan of his, and not just that, but Mere Christianity has been a great book for me to read as well.
Did you read all the
Just
CS
Lion. Just the Lion.
Just the
I have
Lion.
not read Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I've not read Prince Caspian and the other books that he's had in his collection.
Quick question. The one you always quote on the podcast.
Hmm.
What was his name? About media.
Oh God. Oh, I can't even remember.
Yeah, I can't think. You quoted a Postman's book.
Oh, Neil Postman. Yeah.
Yes.
Amusing Ourselves to Death. That is an excellent book. If you ever, that is.
I totally forgot about it. Matt turned me on to that during the
Such a
podcast,
great book.
and I read that. It was phenomenal.
Basically, Steve, I don't know if you've read it, but it's a terrific, real look into the media, and he writes it during the 1980s, during the height of the Reagan administration, essentially. And he was spotting, like, essentially it's a book about, like, how we have entertained ourselves through the mass media. And basically where you have, like, your typical news broadcast has your very handsome guy, your beautiful chick next to you on the right, kind of just talking a little bit about flowers and all kinds of neat stories. Then you have your sports guy in the corner drinking, like, beer and smoking a cigar going, what the hell's going on with the team? And then you have your weather dude who's got his pointer. He's like, well, I think it's supposed to be rain over here. And we're all entertained by it. And none of it is just like, it is a beautiful expose into just the showmanship of the media, as opposed to giving you the actual hard facts of the news. And I thought it was a fantastic book. Very short book, probably about a couple hundred pages, but really good expose.
I didn't know anything about.
Shocked.
That's what reading, by the way, reading is fundamental, because I knew nothing about that. And Matt kept bringing it up. And I was like, well, I got to check that out. Read it, and I was like,
stunned. Yeah.
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 Like, exactly. But yeah.
It really is an amazing
That's
thing.
that's what reading is, though. Me and my wife throw things back. We do it more with movies than we do it with reading. We've thrown some things back where we had deep intellectual conversations after we've like shared a movie, whether it be me to her or her to me. And we've spent a lot of time just like, oh, I understand why that makes sense, or this like blah blah. I totally see what you see, and then I saw this, and then there's more, like, especially when you look into art, and reading is important, but movies can be. It doesn't share anything with anybody.
Yeah,
you can get such a great concept from that, because
really
you don't know. I didn't know Matt knew who Postman was.
Yeah.
He read it. He saw it that way. I read it. I saw it a different way, not majorly different, but I saw it in different ways. We actually wrote podcasts kind of with that same concept.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's just amazing to.
It's really stunning. Yeah. It really is great.
Yeah. Get off the phones unless you're watching Two Noobs.
Read books unless you're watching Two Noobs. And watch us talk about books.
Yes.
Read the Necronomicon. It's
Yes.
fantastic.
There you go.
Feed us, but don't the other people. No, don't.
Well, gents, that's it. Episode 43 in the can. And,
So we didn't plan this, but I'm gonna hijack Matt real quick.
Oh, there you go.
Do you remember all the entrants? Can you do it? Can you do all the stuff we're on off the top of your head?
Me?
Yes. Can you do it? Lead it. Go ahead. Throw it to me and Matt. Whatever you decide. We'll just go blind. Go ahead. On the top of your head. Come on. Make it.
All right. We start with audio, right? No, video. Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
TikTok.
And something where you do
Clapper.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are all short videos intended to lead you to the main YouTube channel.
That's right. Where we love it for you to like, share, and subscribe. 3 simple words, but obviously do all of those things. We would obviously love it. And of course, John, the audio side.
Audio side. All right. We are on Apple Podcasts as best we can because I was late on Podbean this week. So you will see these two probably at the same time. We are on Apple Podcast, or no, Google Podcast, Google Chrome, that thing I can't pronounce.
Lav.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So hard.
Yeah.
16,000 other things. We're on iHeartRadio. Spotify sucks. What? Yeah, exactly.
Love it. And of course, our show notes, there of course can be found TwoNoobsTalking@wordpress.com. You enter in your email address, you can submit that. And of course, the show notes show up in your inbox the very next day.
I'll scan this in for your show notes.
There you go. There you go.
That's awesome.
Links to everything that we mentioned before will be there as well. So we hope you enjoy it. Gents, that's it. 44 in the can.
Did you make it?
Rick.
I hope I did.
Okay, cool.
Do we have anything final to say?
We are in the rabbit hole.
Oh, God. God help us all. Talk to y'all next week. Take care.
This country was founded by geniuses, but it's being run by a bunch of idiots. Why do the members of the United States Senate continue to double down on stupid?